Hey guys, I'm Bryn.
I'm Heather.
We are here for another Pharmacist Out of the Box.
Out of the box.
Today we are so excited to have Erin Albert. If you guys have not heard of her, you definitely need to get on LinkedIn, Pharmacy Podcast Network. You need to check her work out. She's amazing. She has so many letters after her name. It's beautiful.
I'm so excited to know more about her. This is going to be awesome.
So not only does she have her business degree, her PharmD, her JD, she's got some other fancy healthcare.
LMNOPs, it's crazy.
It's awesome. And her newest title, which I love, is her Educator title. So I'll let her share more about that. But welcome, Erin. Thank you.
Welcome. Thank you.
Well, thank you for having me, ladies. I'm excited to be here. I have a face for podcasting, not podcasting. So y'all, I got in the shower today. I put my makeup on. My hair is another story, but I'm here. I'm excited to be here with you.
Yeah, awesome.
How in the world did you fit in all these like degrees and specialties? Like, this is so amazing.
How did that happen?
So I just don't know what I want to be when I grow up. So what I figured out is you just don't grow up. So keep learning. I mean, pharmacy is a profession. We all know that you have to be a lifelong learner. You sign up for that when you become a pharmacist. So for me, I really ran screaming from the building every time I graduated. I was like, I'm so done with school. Yeah, Drew, the show where they were running out of the office at the end of the day on Friday. Like, that was me from the hallowed halls. Like, I was done with school each and every time. And yet, every other few years, I felt like I needed to work on my skill set, be it, or one degree leading to another degree. So for example, when I went back and earned my PharmD, because I had a bachelor's originally in pharmacy, I did a pharmacy law rotation and I loved it. It was the general counsel that I rotated with at a pharmaceutical company. He had his hands in everything from the janitor and what we were throwing away all the way through to what was California doing in terms of state laws, because they tend to be the first ones to try crazy laws.
Right.
Dealing with medical affairs and sales. And I just loved being a part of everything when you're a general counsel. So that's actually what led me to law school. So I've just kind of taken the hints from the universe sometimes when it's time to go back and retool. And I think we have to do that in this day and age.
Yeah, especially today. I think that's a very true statement. And a lot of pharmacists are asking that, like, should I go back and get something? Should I get this certificate or that board certification
Well, I'm really excited right now. Congress just introduced a bill at the beginning of December 2019 that would allow us to use 529 savings programs for certifications. So beyond higher ed. So I'm really excited about that, both as an educator myself and working at a pharmacy association, but also as a learner, because I don't think all of us, especially as adult learners, have the time or the money or the resources to go back to school full time anymore.
Well, you mentioned you're a pharmacist and you got your PharmD. You mentioned going back to law school, and then you just mentioned educator. So tell us, what are you doing on that side of things? What's that look like?
Yeah, so I toss a few balls around there. In 2019, actually, I taught a course at Butler University College of Pharmacy and Health Sciences called the Non-Traditional Healthcare Professional. And my goal in teaching that course was to share with healthcare and pharmacy majors a variety of different career paths and then teach them how to actually get a job. Now, I don't know about you ladies, I never learned in pharmacy school how to get a job. And I think with the marketplace changing now and the pressures of a lot of major cities being saturated when it comes to pharmacists, back to your point, we need to get out of the box and get very creative about what we're going to do in training the next generation of pharmacists. So in this elective, I had the soft skills like how to shake hands, how to stare at the camera when you're interviewing, because a lot of interviewing is online now, to things like how do you look at your own skill set and the gaps that you still have and closing those skills gaps. Now, maybe that's going back to school, but maybe that's a certificate, CE program, etc. So that course was really phenomenal because it showed pharmacy students to think out of the box and find other career avenues that they either get paid in terms of dollars and cents or get paid in terms of social capital and filling their souls.
Right.
That's
That's
incredible.
awesome.
What was your, would you do it again? Did you enjoy that elective or?
I love that elective. The students actually had to create portfolios of themselves. So they did a revamp of their resumes. They did what I call personality CVs. So they did a ton of tests on themselves to understand who they are, because know thyself is super important. The foundational textbook that I used in that course was What Color is Your Parachute? And it's a classic. If you've ever, thought about your own job search, it's a great battery of tools in that book to walk through. So students had to develop their flowers, which is a huge portion of that book. And it looks at things like strengths, who you like to work with, even what geography you want to be in, because I want to be with you at the pool right now. I failed at that. But I think it's just really important to know who you are. You have to know you better than anybody else, because if you can't articulate that story to the universe is never going to be able to fetch you your ideal life.
And I find that with a lot of pharmacists that come to me or us about, how do I make a change? What are the options? And that's the first thing I'll ever tell them is you need to just take some time. And we don't do that. We don't give ourselves permission to do that, because it really takes time to figure out who you are, because we're so busy playing the roles of mom and pharmacist and wife. And, and so it really you need to say, I'm important and this is important. And I need to take some time to figure out who I am, because I think a lot of us didn't know who we were because we were being whoever everybody needed us to be. But it took a while for me to sit with myself and say, okay, who am I? What do I even like doing? I have no idea, because I'm so busy doing what I'm doing.
Well, there's a great statistic in the book that says, here's all the methods that you can go by finding a quote unquote traditional job. And it lists like the classifieds, online portals, etc., and the percentage of success. But if you start with yourself first, you're 86% more likely to find your dream job. If you just start with yourself and what your own proclivities are, not what your parents think you should be as a student, or your spouse thinks you should
or
be.
the other students are doing. Yeah.
Right.
They compare themselves with what the smartest person in the class is doing, or that friend of theirs, or forget that. I always tell them, let go, be yourself. Especially nowadays, being yourself makes you stand out.
Yeah.
So
authenticity is really important. I agree.
What is your days looking like right now? You do a lot on LinkedIn Live.
So right now I'm running a great LinkedIn Live experiment, I'm calling it. So I don't have a laboratory. I guess LinkedIn is my laboratory right now. So my day job is with ASCP, the American Society of Consultant Pharmacists, and I'm continuing education director there. And so our open call for proposals is out right now at the end of the year for 2020. And so I wanted to kind of explore our annual continuing pharmacist education needs assessment and all the different avenues of interest that our members and learners want to hear about in 2020. And each day for the last 20 days of 2019, I'm giving kind of one of those pearls from the needs assessment to try to drive traffic into the call for proposals portal, which closes at the end of the year as well. I don't know if it's working. It's been fun to try to think about, okay, with this particular, topic, which directions do I need to guide learners or speakers in terms of senior care pharmacy, because that's our world at ASCP. But I think it's been kind of fun now. People are starting to anticipate me being there online. And today I kind of cheated at noon. I showed an old LinkedIn live stream, but it was still relevant to a topic that I wanted to touch on. I just think it's fun to try to communicate. I mean, pharmacists at the end of the day, no matter what setting, we're all educators. So if it's on Facebook Live or Instagram Live or in a classroom or with a patient, at the end of the day, it's all about how well you can articulate and communicate the knowledge in your head to the other parties in the room.
Yeah. And I thank you for doing that, because I think in general, in the past, pharmacists have been kind of quiet. We love to be behind the glass, some of us, and just kind of not, just communicate with our patients and not we've never, this is just Heather opinion, but we haven't been really good at putting ourselves out there like other professions do. So thank you for being someone to spearhead that. I really love when all of us are out here saying we're pharmacists and we're really cool.
Yeah. And we're pretty good at articulating our value to each other. I think we're falling apart is we've got wallflower syndrome. We won't extol to the masses the brilliant things that pharmacists are bringing to the table. Like, we're a little too humble, I think.
Yeah, exactly.
You've done a lot recently too. Like, she put together Who is Podcasting in Pharmacy.
Oh, yeah, I saw that.
And
Yeah. That's fun. I think it's really important to focus on who is independently podcasting, because that's just another channel where we can articulate our value. Mm-hmm. And a lot of the podcasters are just doing it, for LOVE reasons. They love the profession. They're not making money on it per se. They just want to, try to share again the knowledge and the value that pharmacists can bring to the table. So I just started aggregating that information actually for my elective this fall for students too, because I wanted them to hear different voices on and through digital channels for pharmacy practice. Because back to your point, ladies, earlier, you mentioned it, you can't focus on what the person next to you is doing. You have to go look at the whole scene and pick your passion.
Right.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and we're doing it for love. We've always done it for love.
Yeah, love. Yeah,
that's talking about when we had like 4 people listening. Like, whoa, 4 people listen to us. That is so
Somebody other than my mom is listening to me. Oh my gosh. Yeah.
But I think it makes a difference. Like, people, like other pharmacists, knowing there are other people out there. You can go on and do this wonderful training, or you can figure out first what are your passions, what are your gifts, and take that and apply it to your life. So you're working with the college, you're doing stuff with the ASCP. I feel like I've read so much more about like things you're involved in.
Well, right now with the Educator podcast, I really changed the name of it from the very boring, the Dr. Erin Albert show, because of going to She Podcasts in Atlanta, Georgia this last fall. And it was the first time that crowd or that tribe of women got together. There's tens of thousands of them in a Facebook closed group. And I loved getting around that energy. There are not enough women podcasting and sharing their stories. So it was really good to get around some feminine girl power and understand that I needed to do a better job in branding what it is that my own personal passion is. So I love playing at the intersection of education and a little bit of entertainment. So that's where I came up with that. But right now on the Edutainer, I'm going through a podcast mini series looking at different pharmacy and medicine associations for all of us to get involved in the new decade. I think if we don't get involved as professionals, we're doing part of not damage, but a disservice to our profession. When you sign up to be a professional, part of that means advocating for the profession. So I don't care what organization or tribe you follow. I just think it's important to show a variety of those tribes so you can pick your passion and get involved, jump in, share your stories, because that's the only way that pharmacy is going to survive and thrive in the next decade.
That's awesome. And then what does your typical week look like? Or month, or
I don't know if there is a typical week. I super commute. So my boss is Chad Wers. Dr. Wers is in Washington, D.C. because our Alexandria office is our headquarters. So I joke that I am ASCP West, being here in the Midwest. So I super commute. I taught 1 day a week at Butler, so I would go over to Butler on that day. I love working remotely. Can I just say that? For a lot of reasons, like the weather here. We have 4 inches of snow on the ground, and I literally have my bunny slippers on right now. I will not show them to you.
Let's see. Come on, let's see.
You can go see them on Instagram. But it's really, I think, empowering to work for an organization that not only trusts you to do your job, but is results oriented. I mean, there's that whole row work environment. So it's all about results only. And I actually, like earlier today, I was editing a video for a webinar for continuing pharmacy law education, and I needed to focus on it. So if you're in an open office environment, editing video and being really focused on things, I think can be a challenge. Whereas I'm here at home, it's quiet, and I can focus if I need to focus. And as a continuing education director, details matter. So I love working from home. Now, it's not for everyone, but I am very fascinated by and passionate about remote work because I have a team as well. Some of them are in DC and some of them are remote as well. I don't really care if they're on a boat with a goat. Don't care, get your job done. Like, I'm a big believer in that. And that's what people want. That's what really top tier professionals want. They want that level of autonomy. And let's be honest, most pharmacists are going to be their own biggest critics, right? So at the end of the day, we're going to get the job done. But for me, I just love the environment of being, zen at home.
Right. And I think from the business level down, when you can allow that to happen, then you bring other players, like you bring the best from the best. If you had to have everybody in that same area, you're really limiting who can be on your team or who can be in your tribe, right? So it does kind of make you a better business, I think, when they allow that to happen.
If you want the top performers, you have to be flexible in this day and age.
Yeah.
Just the market's become too competitive.
Absolutely. Well, and when it comes from the business side too, because I was kind of an operations manager, when you have to house people in a space, then you have to pay for space, right? And so from a business perspective, if I don't have to pay for the building, it really, from a business standpoint. So I think we're going to move more and more and I think we are moving more and more that way too. Well, you're really an advocate. It seems to me you're in ASCP, you're working towards advocating for us as pharmacists. And I think there are some students and maybe pharmacists who might be, how do I advocate more? So, I think some even, I would think potentially would be like, wow, you can actually work for APHA or work for ASCP or, there's jobs. So if someone was interested, whether it was a student or a pharmacist ongoing now, and they want to delve more into maybe doing that as a career and working in advocacy organizations, how do you start, or what would you recommend for them?
Wow, we got a whole funnel of that here at ASCP. So the first step really is to join ASCP. Students until the end of the year can join us for free. So students, if you're listening, go over to ascp.com/students and sign up now, hurry. Number two, we have an APPE rotation. So students can either join us at our DC office, or they can join me here in the Midwest in Indianapolis, and we have a remote rotation, but it's all about association management. My rotation here focuses more obviously on education, whereas the DC rotation can focus on things like government affairs or advocacy or any of the other functions that we have out there. The third step is we have what we call a Cano internship. And that's a summer internship specifically in our government affairs team. And you can go on the Hill, you can, advocate for the profession as a student, and you get paid in the summertime. And I know a student or two at least would love to get paid. So after that, we actually have a fellowship in government affairs as well. We have a recent graduate, Ricardo, in that position. It's a 2-year fellowship, and again, it's focused on government affairs and advocacy. And he just went to ASHP mid-year on behalf of ASCP. So there's a whole spectrum of ways that you can get involved and advocate. And I would argue that most of the other professional societies or associations have that kind of value cycle for students to get involved as well. Association management is not really something that I planned on for my own career, but none of this was part of the plan. I don't know if there's a plan. But it's fun. It's really kind of like almost super entrepreneurial, but it's in a nonprofit cause. So you get fired up and geeked up about your profession or whatever your association is about. And then you're still thinking very entrepreneurially. And that's not for every pharmacy major, but I think the ones that have that passion and drive for not only the profession, but also starting something or project management or getting involved in starting a campaign, I think those are really cool opportunities for pharmacists.
Now, you were a student when all this happened. So how did what happened to get you into ASCP? How did that happen? Or were you a student?
Ladies, it was a podcast. So I did a podcast with Chad Wers, who is my current boss, a while ago. We talked about kind of the future of pharmacy. And I saw, fast forward several years later, I saw a job posting opening at ASCP. And it was really funny. I reached out to Chad and I asked him, I was like, this position I see is open and I see that you're the CEO now. Congratulations. By the way, would you consider someone working remotely in the position? Because I can't move right now. And he said no. And we just had a quick conversation on LinkedIn. It was fine. And then 5 minutes later, he sent another private message. He's like, well, who are we talking about here? So we struck up a conversation. I went out to DC and interviewed with the team, and fast forward a year and a couple of months later, here we sit. So never underestimate the power of the podcast, ladies.
Right. Yeah.
No, and you talked about it. To me, I'm weird in ooey gooey, but it's the universe, right? If you keep your mind open and you network and make relationships, like I feel like the universe, when you follow your passion in your heart, like that starts happening, and the universe is like, okay, little nuggets of helpful things for you along the way. So that's amazing.
Yeah, and pharmacy, you guys know, is very it's a small industry. Everybody knows everybody.
Yes. And I like that you just asked. I mean, a lot of people don't realize, they get so worked up about what would this answer be? Oh, that would never happen. But if you don't ask, then you don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you just have to put it out there. And the worst they could say is no. I totally
Don't ask, don't get.
Well, and it goes back to being honest with who you are and what you want. Like, you were very honest with, like, hey, I want to work remote. And so I think when you're just honest with yourself and you're upfront, then everybody can deal with what's there and like make things happen. So it was you know, knowing who you are and what you needed. So that's great.
Yeah, and I'm appreciative of Chad being open-minded about it, because remote work is not for everyone. And I had worked remotely before as well. So I already knew my proclivities. I mean, I'm an introvert. I read books. I have a cat. Like, I'm a crazy cat lady. Like, but that's who I am. I'm not going to like shun it or walk away from it. I just have to embrace who I am. And I'm thankful that ASCP was open-minded enough to give me the opportunity.
That is so neat. And I love your inspiration. So I don't think our listeners heard before, but your background has quite a mix.
Yeah. So this is my wall of fame. And I put like all my thank you cards on it. I put any kind of postcards from traveling, because I love travel, on the board. But it's basically just a wall in my home office that I keep all my ephemera from my life. And every once in a while, like every other New Year's, I'll strip it off and start all over again. I did that last year, and I probably won't do it again this year for now, but I love it because it literally faces my desk. So when I need a brain blip, you know, to get away, step back from the computer, I just look at my wall of fame and I scroll through all my history, and I remember fondly my trip to Paris, which happened to be one of the coldest days on record ever for Paris, or, you know, thank you cards from students, or any kind of inspiration. I just love having it in a place in my office.
That is awesome.
That's
I love it.
And you mentioned a little bit about getting away and traveling. Are there other things you like to do for self-care and taking a break from the studying and the creating?
Burnout, right? We've been talking all about burnout in healthcare professions in 2019. I love travel. I love reading. I'm a huge reader. I used to listen to quite a few podcasts when I commuted, but now honestly I don't, because I'm in my bunny slippers, you know. But I am a big fan of reading and listening, and I'm futuristic. So my number one strength is futuristic. I'm obsessed with the future, which I love from an educational standpoint, because I'm always trying to, you know, set up the CEs around the future of blank,
right,
around pharmacy practice. So I was just talking to Tim Onks this morning about doing something around technology and senior care for 2021, which just is like I'm so nerded out on that kind of stuff, like robotics, and how could robotics keep senior patients at home longer and healthier, rather than going to the long-term care facility or the nursing home, to, you know, medication adherence and technology there with Little Pillow as a robot example. And that's just one example, but automated voice response, things like Alexa and Google Home, and how they're helping senior patients stay healthy. I love all that. Like, to me, that is my jam. So work isn't always work.
Right. That's a blessing. What a blessing.
Yeah. It's weird, but it's interesting. And then I just like to take people on the journey with me. So it's a book or a podcast or whatever. It's just me channeling my Nancy Drew. And please let me know if you don't know what Nancy Drew means. When I say that to them, they're looking at me like,
students like, who's Nancy Drew?
Just Google it.
Just Google.
Oh, the case of the
Yeah.
lost generation.
So what kind of books? Like, what are you reading now?
I am a nonfiction nerd. My favorite book of 2019 was Priya Parker's book, The Art of Gathering. All the reasons that I just outlined. It is a fabulous book where she talks about, we fixate on what food we're serving at a meeting or the agenda, but we all need to really carefully think about what outcomes we want to achieve within a gathering, and we spend very little time on that. So she kind of walks through any kind of gathering that she's ran across and how you make meaning out of it. You can set up kind of eccentric rules around it, how to create long tails around a meeting. So the anticipation of a meeting or a gathering. These are the things that as not a meeting planner, but as an educator, I'm fascinated by. So when you're a pharmacist and you've only got a limited number of funds to drop to go to one association meeting per year, which one are you going to go to? And I would argue it might be the one that has the best, richest experiences for you as a learner. So how might we create amazing, unforgettable experiences beyond just having a nice learning activity around CE? For me, it's more about who did I run into? What conversations did I have? What or how did the organization put me in a place to talk to people that matter to me, that have a shared common interest? Those are the types of things that really geek me out. So Priya Parker's The Art of Gathering, I even sent her a fangirl postcard. Thank you so much for writing this book. I love it.
Wow.
She's got a ton of TEDx talks and videos out there too. She ran one called she talked about one called the Worn Out Mothers Club or something, where a woman journalist was assigned to have a party at her house, and she and Priya kind of talked through why they needed to have the gathering, and then they created crazy little rules like, if you ever talked about your kid at the gathering, you had to take a shot. Or if everybody had to go through their purses and pull out any kind of kids gear, like pacifiers or anything, gummy bears, any of that jazz, get rid of it. So it was Exhausted Moms Club or something like that. But she had record, as soon as she sent out the invitation, she had record responses to it. But it was all about
the experience,
right? It wasn't about, we're just going to have this party. It was, here's the specific need, and if you relate to that need, please come.
Gotcha.
That's so awesome. I'm going to have to read that.
I know. I was thinking that too. I'm like, woo, that's a good one.
I originally listened to the ebook, which I don't normally do, but I loved it so much. I was going to go buy a copy. And then lo and behold, one of my friends gave me a copy of it. She's like, you're in this line of business. You should have this. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I was literally going to buy this. Mm-hmm. So she gave me a copy. I shared it with Chad and I asked for it back because I put notes in it.
I need that back.
Nice.
Yeah.
Here's a return envelope. Keep it handy.
Yes. Can I have my book back now, please? I don't even know if he read it all, nor do I care, but I have my copy back.
That's the way to do it.
Yeah.
Great.
Oh my goodness. I love it. No, I just have enjoyed your personality online and just learning from you. You don't even know this, but like a year and a half ago, I remember listening to your episodes going, oh my goodness, like this is, I don't even remember what episode, but like you just have a way of teaching others and including others on your journey that it opens your mind up to like different possibilities. So I tell all my students, I'm like, okay, Pharmacy Podcast Network, it's large. Just get Erin's episode. She's one of the top people you got to go listen to. But I appreciate you putting your content out there and just sharing that and inspiring others.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. I love that you guys are vodcasting. Again, that's like the 2.0 version. I'm still back here at 1.0.
No.
I'm in my bunny slippers in my closet podcasting. So I appreciate that you've kind of raised the bar here, but I'm face for radio.
I'm still in my neon
Nice. I like it.
Crocs. So
Nice.
I like it a lot.
Yeah, down here, yoga pants. So
I'm with you today, ladies. Channeling you.
Yeah.
I know.
Well, thank you so much for sharing time. I just think you have such a unique story that's definitely going to be well received from our audience. For sure.
And I think that puts an interesting perspective. You know, you can look at all the letters and all the schooling you've done and all the certifications, but you're still rejoiceful when you leave there and it's done. It's behind you. Because a lot of students, when they get ready to graduate, they're like, there's no way I can possibly do more school. I'm burnt out. I'm done. But then again, life changes. You might discover something else you want to venture into, and that's okay.
Mm-hmm.
That's one thing law school taught me. Never say never.
Yep. That's true.
That is so amazing.
Yeah. And just to stay open to things happening, because I think, you know, the pharmacy is going to change. We are changing. And so I tell the students, like, this is your time to like take your uniqueness and your skill set and like put it somewhere where it can do something, because we're going to change. We need you guys. We need you being creative.
What's your sticky factor? What makes you unique? What's your unicorn? Like, whatever label you want to slap on it, but you got to be uniquely you. There's something the world needs from you. So what is that? And, you know,
So true.
Let your weirdness be your superpower.
Yeah. Don't hide it, because the world needs it. Like, God gave it to you for a reason. Let's see it. We need you.
Do you think you'd go back to the She Podcast conference, or is there another group that provides you inspiration, non-pharmacy industry related?
I love podcast movement as well. It's the largest conference, I think, in North America for podcasters. What I loved about that is I bought a virtual ticket the last couple of years, because I've got only so much time and resources to go to meetings too. I really like the vibe in the room though in She Podcasts. I think their next one is going to be on the East Coast, so it depends on what time of year it is for me to make the decision.
You come to Florida.
I love it. I highly recommend it. There were a lot of great women there, you know, women are still underrepresented on podcasts, just like much of media. So I think it's really important for us to get into a room and high five each other and be supportive.
Awesome. Thank you.
Definitely.
Thank you for that advice.
Love it.
Well, thanks for joining us too. We really appreciate it. And for being a woman podcaster and being a good advocate for all of us pharmacists. So we just love that there's so many of us now kind of out there. We're slowly pushing ourselves out there. So thank you so much for helping with that.
And likewise, thank you for teaching and educating our next generation. I think it's so important for them to see professors with new media, teaching, not afraid, not shying away from it. Get over the wallflower syndrome. And so thanks to both of you for the opportunity.
Well, thank you.
Yes, awesome.
And to our audience, please hang with us. We have so many awesome interviews coming up next. This is just one. This is just the tip of an iceberg. We have so many more coming. But Erin, thank you so much. And we wish you all the best and happy holidays during this time of year. If you're listening to us at other times of the year, it's close to Christmas, even though we're outside by the pool.
Whatever holiday you're celebrating.
Holiday. Happy holidays. Yes.
But we're pharmacists out of the box, and we appreciate you listening. Download some more episodes.
Yep. I'm Heather.
I'm Bryn.
See you next time.